The Hidden Hindu, Book 1, full narration. In the year 2020, on a remote island in the Andaman Sea, 4 armed men dragged an unconscious man off a helicopter. His face was smeared white. His hair was matted into a topknot with an iron trident tied into it. His feet left trails of ash on the floor wherever he walked. They called him the captive. But by the end of this story, you'll understand why some people believe he isn't just a man. He might be one of the 7 immortals of Hindu mythology, still walking among us, thousands of years after his first life began. This is the story of The Hidden Hindu, Book 1, by Akshat Gupta. And by the end of this video, you'll see why it became one of the most talked about mythological thrillers in India. Before we dive in, quick context. The Hidden Hindu blends 2 genres that don't usually meet, a government conspiracy thriller and a deep dive into Hindu mythology. It asks one central question: what if the immortal beings described in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata weren't just symbolic stories, but literal, and some of them are still alive today, hiding among us? The novel is told almost entirely through an interrogation. A mysterious man is captured, drugged, and hypnotized by a secret research team, and as they dig into his mind, layer by layer, we, the audience, piece together who he really is. If you like conspiracy thrillers with a mythological twist, think less Da Vinci Code, more modern India meets the Mahabharata, this one's for you. Let's get into it. Here's something clever about how this book is structured. It doesn't start in 2020. It opens in the year 2041. A young man named Prithvi is sitting across from an elderly woman named Mrs. Batra. She's in her 70s, and she's clearly been carrying some kind of trauma for over 20 years. Prithvi tells her something impossible, that he witnessed events from the year 2020, even though he wasn't born yet. Mrs. Batra makes a deal with him. If he tells her everything that happened on that island in 2020, the events that changed her life forever, she'll tell him what she knows in return. Both of them, it turns out, are searching for the same man. So the entire novel is Prithvi's retelling of what happened. And that framing matters, because it means everything we're about to watch already happened. Someone survived to tell the story. The tension isn't really, will they survive? It's, how did they get from point A to this devastating point B? We'll come back to Prithvi and Mrs. Batra at the very end, because the final twist of the book completely recontextualizes why he's telling this story at all. Now back to 2020. The story properly begins with a helicopter landing on Ross Island, a real location in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, just off the coast of Port Blair. In the book, it's home to a hidden research facility, a glass and steel dome, packed with surveillance technology, motion sensors, and screens that respond to touch. This facility is run by a man named Dr. Srinivasan, short, 60-something, a chronic smoker with old-fashioned glasses, but with the kind of presence that makes everyone around him fall in line. He's overseeing a mission he barely understands himself. He knows they've captured the man, but even he isn't fully briefed on why this particular prisoner matters so much. Leading the security operation is Veerbhadra, a retired army brigadier, ex-military build, calm under pressure but visibly on edge. He spent his career working for powerful, secretive people, and even he can tell this mission is different. There's a hierarchy above him that he's not part of, and it's eating at him. The prisoner they've brought in is dressed like an Aghori, a real ascetic sect in Hinduism known for extreme, taboo-breaking spiritual practices, living in cremation grounds, coating their bodies in ash, rejecting all notions of purity as a path to enlightenment. He's tied to an interrogation chair, and the team assembles to find out who or what he actually is. This is where the book introduces its ensemble cast, and each of them represents a different lens for viewing the mystery. First, Dr. Shahista, a psychiatrist and hypnotism specialist flown in from Pune. She's warm, intuitive, and the first person in the room to treat the prisoner like a human being instead of a specimen. Her approach is going to become the key that unlocks his memories. Then there's Dr. Batra, a Sikh doctor, logical to a fault, quick-tempered, and deeply skeptical. Dr. Batra represents the rational, scientific worldview throughout the book. Every single time something inexplicable happens, he's the one insisting there's a medical or psychological explanation. He becomes the audience's skeptic, the person voicing what a modern viewer would probably be thinking. Then Abhilash, and he's a fantastic character for exposition. He comes from a long line of Brahmin priests and has spent his entire life studying Hindu scripture. He's arrogant, a little full of himself, but his encyclopedic knowledge of mythology becomes essential. Every time the prisoner mentions a name from ancient scripture, it's Abhilash who explains who that figure actually was, and slowly, the team realizes these aren't random names. They're connected. And finally, LSD, full name Lisa Samuel DaCosta, a young hacker with a rebellious streak, the tech expert of the group. She's sharp-tongued, unbothered by authority, and turns out to be far more important to the plot than anyone initially realizes. Together, this team represents science, faith, skepticism, and technology, and the book uses all four lenses at once to investigate the same impossible man. The prisoner introduces himself as Om Shastri. He's given a narco-analysis drug, a so-called truth serum, meaning, medically, he should be incapable of lying. And yet, when they ask his real name, he says he doesn't remember, which makes no sense to a hypnotized, drugged prisoner. He should know his own name perfectly. Then the names start coming. He mentions a general named Banda Bahadur, who he says was killed. He mentions someone named Sanjay. Abhilash immediately recognizes it. Sanjay was the advisor to King Dhritarashtra in the Mahabharata. Om then claims that he himself was Vidur, the wise prime minister of Hastinapur during the events of the Mahabharata war. Then he says another name, Sushen. Abhilash explains who that is too. Sushen was the healer in the Ramayana who identified the Sanjivani herb that saved Lakshman's life, the same herb Hanuman famously flew an entire mountain to retrieve. Dr. Batra is furious. To him, this is obviously a man who has spent his life obsessively reading mythology until he started believing he lived it, a psychological disorder, not literal reincarnation or immortality. And for a while, that's a completely reasonable read on the situation. But then the team decides to escalate the interrogation, from words to something much stranger. Here's where the book turns from conspiracy thriller into something closer to sci-fi. The team hooks Om up to a device that reads brain activity and projects his thoughts as images on a screen, essentially, watching his memories play out in real time. At first it's chaos, fragmented images, different eras, different clothing, different landscapes flashing by. But Dr. Shahista calms him down and the images start to stabilize. And what appears on screen isn't vague or symbolic. It's specific. A lush village in southern Tamil Nadu, a man in ancient dress treating the wounded, and then a face that matches Om's exactly, standing beside an unconscious warrior, surrounded by figures who look unmistakably like Lord Ram, Lakshman, and Hanuman. Om explains it plainly. He hasn't aged since that life. He gets sick, he gets hurt, but every time death should take him, he recovers instead. Dr. Batra completely loses it at this point. He storms out, insisting this is fantasy, that the machine is just visualizing an obsessive delusion, not literal memory. And it's a fair challenge, because the team can't actually prove what they're seeing is real rather than an extremely detailed hallucination. This is where Abhilash steps in with the mythology lesson that really unlocks the theme of the whole book, the concept of the Chiranjivis. In Hindu tradition, the Chiranjivis are a group of beings said to be granted immortality, meant to remain alive until the end of the current age, the Kali Yuga. Abhilash lays out two of the most important names for this story, Parashuram and Ashwatthama. Parashuram, literally ram with an axe, is considered the sixth avatar of Vishnu, a warrior sage granted a divine, unbreakable axe by Lord Shiva himself, tasked with ridding the world of corrupt rulers. He appears across multiple ages of mythology, present during the events of the Ramayana and later the Mahabharata, which, on a normal human timeline, is simply impossible. Ashwatthama is even more tragic. Son of the legendary teacher Dronacharya, he was a peerless warrior during the Mahabharata war. After his father was killed through a battlefield deception, Ashwatthama took brutal revenge, and in doing so crossed a moral line. He's cursed by Lord Krishna with immortality combined with eternal suffering, a wound on his forehead that will never heal for as long as the world exists. Abhilash even brings up real-world folklore here. Stories of temples in Uttar Pradesh where locals claim an ancient, ageless man performs prayers every single morning before dawn, even when the doors are locked overnight, and no one has ever caught him arriving or leaving. The point Abhilash is making to the team and to us is this: these aren't just old stories. Across India, there's a long, persistent oral tradition of people who believe immortals still walk among us, and Om Shastri might be living proof. Just as the team is closing in on the truth, the story flips into full action thriller mode. It turns out not everyone in that facility is who they claim to be. LSD, the hacker, and a mysterious figure known only as Paramal are secretly working for someone else entirely. A hidden mastermind named Nagendra, an old man who's been orchestrating this entire operation from the shadows. His goal isn't just information. He wants ancient, forbidden texts, and he wants something from Om's body itself, his blood, believing it holds the final ingredient needed to unlock true immortality. Violence erupts inside the facility. LSD, ordered to eliminate witnesses, fires at Dr. Shahista, but Om throws himself into the shot's path to save her and takes the bullet meant for someone else. In the chaos, Veerbhadra, the security chief who spent this entire story just trying to do his job, ends up caught between forces far bigger than he understood, and it costs him everything. And then the facility's front door is blown open, and two men walk in that everyone in that room recognizes instantly from Om's memories, Parashuram and Ashwatthama in the flesh, the immortals from the mythology lessons, real, present, armed, and here to rescue Om. What follows is a full-scale firefight through the glass corridors of the facility, while Nagendra, LSD, and Paramal make their escape through a hidden underground passage, with the stolen ancient texts in hand, to a waiting submarine. The facility is destroyed in an explosion. The villains escape with the books they came for, and Om survives, badly wounded, in the care of the two immortals who came for him. In the final quiet moments on the beach, Parashuram explains the real stakes going forward. Nagendra doesn't just want knowledge, he needs a specific ingredient from Om's blood to actually complete the process of achieving immortality. Which means this isn't over. Nagendra will be back, because he still needs the one thing he didn't manage to take. And then the book cuts back to that framing device from the very beginning. The year 2041, Prithvi and the elderly Mrs. Batra. Mrs. Batra, having just heard this entire story, asks Prithvi the obvious question. How does he know all of this? Why is he searching for Om Shastri? And Prithvi answers with the line, the entire book has been building toward. Om Shastri is his father. Suddenly, the framing device makes complete sense. Prithvi isn't just some outside investigator piecing together old rumors. He's the son of an immortal being, searching for a father he spent his whole life trying to find. And the book ends there on that reveal, setting up everything still to come in the sequel. So that's Book 1 of The Hidden Hindu, a story that takes the immortals of Hindu mythology and drops them into a modern government conspiracy thriller, using one long interrogation to slowly unravel thousands of years of hidden history. If you're into mythological fiction with a sci-fi thriller edge, this is a fun entry point into Akshat Gupta's series. And the ending makes it very clear there's a lot more story left to tell. Let me know in the comments, do you think Om Shastri is really one of the Chiranjivis, or is there a rational explanation waiting in Book 2? And if you want a breakdown of the sequel once I've read it, drop a like and subscribe so you don't miss it.